Good morning, everybody. How is everybody doing? Benny, aka Superstar.
Hi there.
Oh.
That's it. That's all. That's it.
That's it. That's
I was
it.
expecting more of like, ta-da! At least something like more of an announcement.
Yeah, well, there's not a whole heck of a lot. No,
Hand
except
signals
for
work too. Yeah, we're all
and
cooling down out here in Seattle, aren't we?
wow, yeah, 100. Was it 100?
I don't think we've got that hot, but in some areas it was low 90s for sure. So it was very warm, but I think the rest of the United States are trying to cool down as well. So it's not just us.
Oh, I know. But
Yep.
you know what? There is nothing like the Pacific Northwest in
I
summer.
know.
Oh,
I know, right?
there is nothing like it. Oh, I love it. So welcome, you guys. Clarity with Sue. If you want to get a copy of this show and sign up for the newsletter, that would be the best way. And you just go to claritywithsue.com and you sign up for the newsletter. And we kind of joked about it last show about love bumps.
You should go back and listen to that one, folks. That's
You should. It was
Yeah,
pretty
it's a good one.
fun. Sacred sexuality, getting love bumps, all this beautiful goddess conversation leading me into today's guest. Again, all you got to do is go to claritywithsue.com and collect all the information there. If it'll all go to your inbox. I don't spam. I don't do any of that. It's once a week. We make sure that you have all the content and information that you need. I pull cards, and it's just, a way to remind ourselves and to get messages from source. And you take what resonates and then leave the rest. I want to remind you guys, I've got the online clarity, craziness to clarity program running right now. We are going to be doing an in-person PCC, which is your personal code of conduct. And that is creating, teaching you how to create your own code of conduct. And it's really important with that clarity, because that's going to give you that self-confidence and that alignment of who you are and how you're showing up to be. And in addition to that, you're going to be attracting all those beautiful people that align with what you and how you're showing up to be. We're going to be doing that in person, and you can sign up for the wait list, and that's at Sue Lundquist, or no, Clarity with Sue. I keep going back to my name, Clarity with Sue, but that's all right. It's me.
Must be the heat. It must be the heat. You got to cool down a little bit. Slow down a little bit.
I got to slow down. Yeah, it's just, there's something going on with the energy here. Mr. Red Hook. I got, there's something there. No, you're just going to.
Just a shirt.
Just a shirt. All right, you guys. Yeah, the old Woodinville Red Hook. Didn't they move that to downtown Seattle now?
I don't know for sure. Maybe. Sure. You can look it up online. Everything's online.
Okay. All right. Well, we're goofing off. Guys, all with the intention of just loving on you. And it's a new perspective, new thoughts, new ideas, and it's a new you. I like to say it's, we're going to love you into 2.0. It's still the same you. We're just going to give you a little bit of adjustments and some education. And with that being said, how about learning about your goddessness, that juicy goddess and that archetype? What does that mean? We're going to kind of unpack all that. We're going to talk about culture. We're going to talk about theory. We're going to really dive deep into what this archetype stands for, how this can show up in your life, and the whys and the hows and all that beautiful. And my guest, this is actually her third book. She's been on the show before, because I was like looking at her. I'm going, wait a minute. Wait. This is just way too familiar. With that, let me get to the formal bio, and then we're going to reintroduce her again. And then also her third book's coming. So the first female lineage holder of her distinguished Vedic, is it Vedic or Vedic? Is it
Vedic?
Vedic.
You said it right.
Okay, Vedic tradition. And I want to break this down for you guys, because this is actually really beautiful. And we were talking about her title and her name and the meaning of it. And there's so much to be said for this. And it's Acharya, which is the title master. She's a master teacher, and her name is Shunya. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Beautiful.
Yes, so good. She is an internationally renowned scholar, teacher, author, speaker, and scholar of non-dual wisdom from India, which we're going to talk about because this is really important within the archetype, and also the conversation around culture and how that's evolving and changing for the woman and the man. You know, I mean, there's that contrast, right? She's the founder of the Awakened Self Foundation and the nonprofit. Is it Vedika Global Inc.? Did I pronounce that correctly? Platforms headquartered in Northern California that empowers, educates, and inspires a global community of students through online courses, workshops, and retreats. These conversations are furthered by top-rated podcast, Shadow to Self. Ooh, that's a whole nother deep conversation. I'm just going to bring you on, sweetheart. Let's get to know you again. Welcome.
Hello, hello, hello. Great to be back. And I remembered from last time your energy, and I just love it, Sue.
Oh, thank you. Yes. And I feed off of the energy that's coming from the guests too, and also our audience, right? And advocating, I can feel them. Okay, so I did your formal bio, but of course, and like we did on the other show, let's get to know you, your background, your why, and then we'll start talking about your third baby, your book coming up from
Roar Like a Goddess. Yeah.
Yes, Roar Like a Goddess. I love it.
Where would you like me to begin?
Oh, I want to know your why. Let's get to know you, the audience again.
Well, then there I was, born in a distinguished family in India in the 1960s. And I didn't know why this is so special. It felt special. I was loved and happy. But apparently my ancestors have been well-known, renowned teachers for generations and generations. And because we're an ancient culture, so we can trace our family and our lineage back to ancient books of wisdom known as the Vedas. And these Vedas, the Veda literally comes from the word to know. And this is pre-religion. Before any religion like Hinduism or Buddhism or Sikhism began in India, there was this quest to know your higher self, to know your spiritual potential, to be able to commune with the universe. And this is what is contained in the Vedas. And my family has been forwarding it forever. And apparently 2000 years ago, our ancestry began with a man and a woman. And then it was all men for a long time. And then here I am in the 21st century. Once again, once again, there's a female back in the lead. And I live in Northern California in the Bay Area. I have students worldwide. And, I started forwarding this wisdom that is deeply spiritual, but at the same time, it helps you embody a sovereign mind, a sovereign life story. Mm-hmm. That's why my second book is known as Sovereign Self. And I was like, people ask me, your story, Shunya. And really, my story also contains darkness, also contains shadow, because I was not only challenged in my journey in my own country. Even I came abroad, I saw everywhere that some of it had to do with my gender, and some of it had to do with me internalizing, unasked, self-limiting beliefs, like an internalized belief that I have to explain myself more. I have to prove myself more. Tell me if that's familiar.
Oh, come on. I think that's, yes, a massive common thread, not only for me, but for many of us, right?
Many of us.
Many, yes.
And despite having a pretty progressive life and a family and a tradition, I was like, wait, I'm explaining myself too much. And that's when I began roaring with conviction and strength. And that gave birth to my book, Roar Like a Goddess, because I went back to some goddess storytelling that I'd grown up with in India, where the goddesses were roaring with power and with sexuality and pleasure and peace and conviction.
Without the shames and the fears and the cultural.
Liberate
that energy, brothers and sisters. Yeah. Liberate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Beautiful.
And then
Roar
I
like a
found that
goddess.
there have been roaring women in every culture, every culture. And we're celebrating that, I think, here, Sue.
Oh, I do. And I think, roar like a goddess. And we got a lot of stuff going on in our world right now, and especially today, and things happening with the contrast of, and I say contrast in love. It's just an adjective to describe. We need the contrast to get clarity on what we want and what we don't want, and how we're showing up, how we're not showing up. And I think, or I don't think, I feel that your next book is so timely in providing that clarity to the goddess within. And I want to talk about the goddess within and what culture, or the US and your culture as well, and culture as the whole within the United States, and how that's all evolving and what you're witnessing. And I think that awareness is really important to give people hope moving forward with everything that's going on. Would you agree?
I would agree.
Yeah.
But I wanted to bring alive the goddess theory, the goddess archetypes again, because the goddess, in my explanation and understanding, is not just an airy fairy deity entity that's outside us, but that goddess is within us as our own empowered self. And she's sleeping within all of us, but the right words, the right teachings, the right mythology, the right archetypes can empower her. And then there is a goddess beloved in my culture known as Durga. And Durga rides a lion and she roars with conviction. And she's really cool, right? She doesn't meow, she doesn't beg, she doesn't seduce, she roars. And I felt like it's timely, especially after the Me Too movement. Yeah. And just this ongoing progress. But then I still saw that women worldwide we need to have empowered conversations. And I guess my book is
I think it's empowered conversations versus controlling or manipulating, right? Because there's plenty of that. Let's have a really educated conversation around all of this. Please go ahead, honey.
No, I agree with you, because an empowered doesn't mean perfectionism. An empowered conversation means accepting ourselves radically, including our traumas, including our shadow, including where we weren't able to triumph in life. But that's all part of us. Like a river moves forward, she doesn't leave a drop of herself behind. She carries all of it, the stained and muddy drops too. We have to move forward with that. And that empowered me, because I'm a spiritual teacher, and spiritual traditions. I'm a teacher of a tradition that holier than thou tradition, and I could totally wear my robes and pretend like I got it together from the moment I took my birth. But I deliberately choose to be enlightened but vulnerable at the same time, like an enlightened vulnerability. Like I have knowledge, but I have my human vulnerability. And that makes me a goddess. On the world stage, we got to owe up to our shadow, just like there is dark and then there is light in this world. They're both parts of us. So the book is not just about roaring with this, like you said, outer controlling or outer achievement. It's also roaring with allowing for our pain to surface and yet be really proud. Does that ring?
Oh, it's juicy. Yeah. Yes, of course it is. So what I'm gathering from it is, and audience, I need you to hear this as well. It's not this roaring, this massive roar like a goddess and free nilly, yada, yada, yada. It's an essence of my language, self-love within the self, right? Male or female, or as a culture. And roaring, you froze up, sweetheart. Where'd you go? Hey, Benny.
Yeah, she did, unfortunately. Let's try this. How about we take a quick break and we can try to snag her back, okay?
Sounds good. We'll be right back, you guys. Bear with us.
Okay, we're at a break.
There she is. Okay, we're on a commercial break.
Yeah.
We're still live on YouTube, right?
Yeah, yes. But technological stuff happens. But part
does.
of our roaring is being okay with it. Big deal.
Right?
Okay.
I can't tell you
We
how many
showed up.
times yeah, I can't tell you how many times that's
Yeah.
happened. Benny, you tell
So
me,
would
are we
you,
doing a 1 minute or a 3 minute commercial?
We can do a full break if you want, or I can come back sooner.
Come back sooner. Let's roll
Okay.
it. Yeah, thanks, honey. You got to let me know because I can't see you.
I know.
Okay. I'm sorry, what was that?
so would you repeat your last thoughts? Because I don't think I caught them.
I don't remember what I said.
Then we'll just start wherever.
There was so much
I
going
love
on.
that. Yeah,
I was moving on. I was in the moment. Now I'm moving on. Maybe it'll come back to me.
No, we were talking about, and it's so true. We were talking about how the roar is not just a roar of achievement, but the roar is about the roar of vulnerability too.
Yes. Roar like a goddess, the vulnerability and the love, the self-love.
Yeah.
And acceptance of that contrast, right?
Yeah.
The contrast of fear or acceptance, the contrast of fear and love. And taking that.
Let me bring you back. Is that cool? Can you go from there?
Yep, let's go.
All right, stand by. I'm just going to fade you out. So,
okay.
And you're live.
Woo! Welcome back, you guys. All right. We love the energy and the frequencies that's going on with the goddesses in the house. Benny, you're a goddess too, sweetheart.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Sue.
Yes. All right, audience, welcome back. Sue here with Clarity with Sue. All right, we were talking about roaring like a goddess, but roaring like a goddess in the sense and the essence of authentic and genuine. These are big buzzwords, like anchor words for me. Authentic and genuine, like it really anchors me in. And I say that because roar like a goddess has that same theme. It's not about this free nilly. I don't want to use the word controlled because that's not the word I'm looking for, but there is a clarity around all of this. And if you are clear on your self-love, your goddess within, right? That roar like a goddess is a true, authentic, genuine love. And we were talking about culture and the differences. And I would like for you to continue with that, if you would, please.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the word authentic and ingenuous, because I think for me, really roaring is about claiming your authentic voice. It's like a lioness would roar, and if she forgot her roar, and that means she's forgotten her power. And I personally feel that we are all sons and daughters of a great divine feminine energy. And the Vedas, the tradition I come from, Sue, defines a divine allness as divine masculine, divine feminine, and divine formless, and divine transgender too, really. So that's really beautiful.
All encompassing.
All encompassing. And I want to claim the divine feminine aspect of me and awaken that power and claim my authenticity, whether I want to shed a tear at that moment or whether I want to be fine and courageous, but I want to be authentic. I want to take off those masks. I want to be scriptless, and I want to birth myself again and again in a given moment. And so that was really important for me. And for culturally, though my tradition, right?
Yes, rolling into that. I know, but rolling into that, let's pin that right there, because providing a space of our goddessness, and having that safe container that allows, permits, right? Okay, here you go, babe. Go. I see it.
I love those words, providing a space for our goddessness. I'm going to have to borrow that from you.
Pin it, babe. It's all you.
Oh my God, I'm going to write that up, providing a space for my goddessness. So if I'm going to walk into a room, I have to provide a space for my goddessness to shine through. There you have it.
I got goosebumps. I got goosebumps.
No more shrinking. You birthed that slogan.
God, I love it so much. Yeah. And I speak that because and I speak that in saying that I diminished myself, I lowered myself, and I take full accountability and responsibility for that. Wasn't an easy one, right? Well, what do you mean? I'm the one that's allowing that to happen, diminishing ourselves, right? So when you choose diminishing ourselves, male, female, whatever that energy is in your humanness, how you're showing up, Again, going back to roar like a goddess and providing that space within yourself.
Yeah, and you know, and I take accountability, but I also looked at how diminishing ourselves is almost like a viral infection. It's like a pandemic. And as little children, we come in really full of ourselves, and our self-love is clear and sparkling. That's why we're so attractive. But then slowly we are conditioning each other and falling asleep to our own love, to our own worthiness. And I think you and I and all of us, we fall asleep to that inner roar, to that inner permission, to that inner goddessness. And really, my book is about reclaiming that. And it's about, for example, I talk about, yeah, generosity is great, but when is it not great?
Right.
And contentment is great. We're all taught to be spiritually content, but when does it become containment? You know. So these are some things I wanted to look at, not just as an Indian woman, not just as a woman, but just as a being who's being indoctrinated to be kind. But kindness is my nature. But also, but you cannot really be kind without being authentic first, because then you go into rescuing behavior, don't you think?
Oh, rescuing codependency. We can, there's a whole, come on, sister. There's a whole batch of stuff we can have that conversation for sure.
But if we walk in, if we create a space for our goddessness, then we will check in, like, is this true? Am I breathing, you know, my truth to my power? What's going on here? It's really subtle, but we start looking in and we change. The dynamics change when we change. Everything changes.
Yeah. Just breathing that in for a minute. You know, providing a space for the goddess within. And this is universal, audience. This isn't just goddess as the feminine female that we see in the world showing up. I want to make sure that we communicate that again. We talked about that. Oh, you've got this look on your face. Go ahead, talk.
The goddess is not tied to a pair of genitals, okay?
No.
The goddess is a consciousness. She's an attitude. The goddess is a worthiness. And this, every male, female, binary, non-binary, gender, everybody has to be empowered with it. Gosh, my dog walks around with his goddess shining, you know? He's such an entitled being. And I saw your baby.
The animals in our lives have got such a great mirror for us, don't they?
Such a great connection to the goddess. Yeah.
Oh, so good. And I joke and laugh because my Levi, you met him at the beginning, and we are so much alike, goofy, silly, full of love, healing, you know, and I've had so many people say, you guys are so much alike. And I'm like, what? I kind of giggle and laugh, but it's true. You know, it took, 12, 14 years for our souls to come back together again. But all right. So I segued, I squirreled a bit. So let's talk about, you had alluded to your Indian culture as a female. So the culture and as a female, let's unpack that a little bit and talk about how that culture is evolving and changing from where it was before.
It's really interesting. Often the scriptures prohibit feminine empowerment, or at least contain the feminine Shakti or power. But the Vedic scriptures, which are the oldest books of wisdom, not dogma. We have a
That's very important to say, because it's not a dogma, it's wisdom.
Not a dogma.
Yeah.
And they created for a gender neutral society. And I came across ancient teachings, like thousands of years old, which are asking the female to lead the legislative assembly, or, make a family if she wants, or be the lawmaker if she wants. So there was all this freedom. But then the India I was born in the 1960s, and the planet I was born in was steeped in patriarchy, in androcentrism, in the male only
control.
Right. But I was lucky that I was born in a family, almost like a bubble of sorts, that, I never realized that I was any different from my brothers or my cousins, male cousins. And I grew up to really, be in love with myself until reality check. I got married, and for the first time, and I walked into a typical setup where now suddenly I was second-class citizen. And I tried to toe the line. I tried to give the others a chance, but ultimately I had to walk out like in a roaring manner, never look back. And, I had to not only change that like personal setup where I had more freedom, but I had to look at what part of me had believed that I was even worthy of few minutes of second-class treatment. Like, where was I okay with it? Where did I nod along silently? Where do us women in the corporate ladder or in any part of the world agree to be second-class people? Because then and now, nobody ever treats me second-class because I will not allow it inside me. So it's
your inner goddess, my friend.
Inner goddess is yes.
And that's for everybody. I know that we're talking, because if you're just joining us, we were talking about a culture-specific question that I was asking. However, we're talking about the inner goddess and providing that space of your inner goddess, regardless of male, female. It's not a gender thing. So please continue, Shunya.
Yeah. So I think then I found that there was a pan culture, like a worldwide culture of women and people of other genders, sometimes taking a second role, and even men, even the poor men being forced into silos of like, men shouldn't cry, men should have their chin up, men can't feel their feelings.
I
men
know.
It's so non-human to just be stuck into being in a script because of your gender, and God forbid if you are someone who's a non-binary gender, you're still looking for who you are. Well, find your inner goddess and roar with who you are, including if you don't know where you are. It's all okay. And accepting yourself radically at every step of the journey is part of the goddess journey, in my belief.
And mine as well. There's something that's coming up for me. So I think the audience is asking this. Roar like a goddess, finding all of that within us, regardless of gender. Accountability, responsibility for myself. Yes, it's roar like a goddess and showing up for how you are and how you want to show up in the world. What's coming to me is that finding that balance of kindness and boundaries, and also honoring your inner goddess. Can we have that conversation?
Yes, I'd like to, and that's why I have gone back into the Indian mythology, and I've come up with 3 goddess archetypes, Durga, Lakshmi, and Saraswati. And Durga owns her rage. Like, she's super soft, super kind, but she doesn't question her rage, because her rage corrects what's wrong for herself and for the whole world. And Lakshmi is a goddess of pleasure, an unapologetic pleasure, sexual pleasure, recreational, beauty, wealth,
love it all, love it all,
party. And so in a way, these archetypes are showing us that your power, your pleasure, and finally Saraswati is a goddess of wisdom, but she has an interesting story. Like, she's supposed to have a mythological partner who kind of made her invisible and unimportant. But she's said to be the goddess of wisdom. How? Because she's shown like playing her own music. Why? Because she didn't put up with being made to feel unwanted or invisible. And she speaks up to her mythological partner to say, we're done. But she doesn't leave him in the sense of like a heavenly divorce. She stays around to co-create something, but it's like a marriage, which is a partnership based on agreements, and agreements that were called by Saraswati. You said, this works for me and this doesn't. So it's almost like an open marriage where you keep some things working for you and some things not. So it's not a black and white situation where you're either in a loving situation or you're out. It's also about saying what works for you, what doesn't, what do you want to validate, and what do you want to say, no, thank you. And so these kind of goddesses and their archetypes and their stories, I felt were worth a universal storytelling, because then we get ideas on how to respond to the culture of inequality, which is universal and which is eternal. Somebody or the other, no matter what is your gender, is feeling oppressed. And we can use these mythological characters and mythological stories, because Sue, mythology is timeless. And we can move forward with those stories.
Yes. And again, finding that goddess within. And I love the conversation that we had about men too, and providing that space for them to have their vulnerability, to have their space where they can feel what needs to be felt so they can move forward through their fear, their doubts, their shames, their guilts, whatever that is, and roaring their goddess within. Non-gender, non-binary, guys. That's what we're talking about here. All right, roar like a goddess. We are going to take a quick commercial break. If you'd like, you can join us live still on YouTube. All you got to do is go to YouTube. You'll see us. You'll hear us. Just type in 11:50 a.m. and you will be connected on YouTube as well. Thank you so much, Benny. Guys, we'll be back in about 3 minutes. Sue here with Clarity with Sue.
All right, all clear. Still live on YouTube.
All righty. This is amazing. Okay, so that was a whole, I love this whole validation for me and what's happening with me, because Clarity with Sue, clarity has been the foundation. You're providing the tools, the how-tos in different cultures, different language, but still providing the how-tos in Roar Like a Goddess or the Sovereign Self, providing those tools to say, you have the permission to change. I got your back. Here's some tools. Here's some stories. I love this. I just love it.
It was really fascinating that, and the whole book writing began during the Me Too movement, because interestingly, a goddess called Durga that Hindus really look up to, she was sexually objectified in one of her human avatars. And instead of
none of us have ever had that happen before.
Right. And instead of being silent or thinking like, oh, she's somehow, responsible for the unwanted attention that she's drawing to herself, she goes, yup, I'm beautiful. Yup, I'm sexy. But I've not been born to pleasure you. I've been born to kill you. Now, of course, I'm not saying
you, pleasure me.
Yeah, pleasure me. And I'm not saying you to go kill someone, but look at her power. And she's not like, oh, I shouldn't be beautiful. She's like, I am beautiful and I am sexy. And I love these stories. I'm like, wow, she's so sassy and at the same time so definitive about her boundaries. And I love
that right there is important. Those boundaries, that clarity in the boundaries. And I don't owe anybody anything.
No. See, let's slow down and talk about that. Yeah. I don't owe anyone anything. These words are very important for all of us, no matter what our gender. First, we own to our own authentic self. Like, we need to go to sleep and feel okay that we're being true to ourselves. Like, we said what we needed to say. We thought what we needed to think. So in a way, coming back to the goddess is being done with those forced obligations that our mind cooks up or our society conditions us to believe that we owe someone something,
You guys ready to come back?
Yes, we're going to come back. Okay.
Stand by.
Oh, thank you. Welcome back. Quick commercial break. If you missed it, we were on YouTube and we're talking about forced obligations and what society, not taking on what society regulates as a norm or how I should be. And the words that I used is, I don't owe anybody anything. You don't owe anybody anything. Now, granted, kindness, love, and compassion are the forefront in my virtues, right? And that kindness, like you were saying, that's how you were raised. And the value that I hold dear is that kindness and love and compassion and boundaries, right? So let's go back into that conversation.
Well, I do want to say, though, that most spiritual traditions, whether it's from India or any other part of the world, they teach things like kindness, generosity, nonviolence, forgiveness. And I was brought up in it too, but because I'm a scholar of the Vedas, I got to see some parts of the teachings that are not so popular, but they're very important. For example, the Vedas mention that even rage is appropriate when it is protecting ethics and values. So I was like, wait. So my anger is divine and worthy if it is being channeled for self-protection and protection of the weaker gender or animals and nature and the environment. Yes. Another dharma value or goodness value I came across was being straightforward, as in being straight like an arrow. And it's mentioned that make sure that before you get into a relationship with someone, your heart, your thoughts, and your feelings, your thoughts, and your speech, they're all aligned. Are you true to yourself first and foremost? And I'm like, why aren't we taught about these things? This is great, because really only then can I even profess to be kind to someone, because I'm being kind to myself.
It's a mirror, right? I talk about this all the time. And when I catch males or females, specifically, it's been males lately, buddies of mine, and they'll have this sarcastic or, something negative that they'll say. And I'm like, whoa, would you say that to me? Would that be loving and kind? And they're like, oh my God, no. And I'm like, well, we're a mirror. I say loving me is loving you is loving us.
And do you even mean it? Did you check into your heart? Are these your thoughts? And for example, when people are being nice to us, how wonderful it would be if each one of us connected with our inner goddess through authenticity. Ultimately, this whole planet would become such a easy plane of existence to navigate. But most of us are, we're caught up with spiritual values of kindness and nonviolence and peacefulness. And here I found a tradition and teachings which said even your rage is appropriate when it stands up for self-protection, self-respect, self-esteem. Like, yes, I want to highlight these teachings too. Of course, it doesn't allow you to self-indulge your rage or be entitled and frenetic, but it's telling us. Yeah. So like in my book, I talk about conscious rage and unconscious rage, or even superconscious rage, where your rage, the rage that Nelson Mandela must have felt, to bring about the breakdown of apartheid.
Shunya, what I'm getting with that was the conscious rage. When you say rage, there is this kind of heavy, negative, scary connotation to the word rage. I don't believe that's what you mean. It's a rage within you of the inner goddess that
it's the force.
It's the force. Now, guys, using that force, that frequency, that energy to good. It's not focusing on the negative. It's not focusing on the cultural adjective that says rage, that heavy, angry. It is that the Mandelas of the world that are focusing on the frequency of love and change and acceptance, right?
Right, because rage is a divine emotion, like every other emotion, and it rises to tell us something is not okay. So rage it comes with force and thunder, because sometimes it's a survival mechanism, but it also allows you to say no when you should not be saying yes or being silent. It also allows you to make change, because when you get angry with your own eating habits is when you start eating healthy. It's when you get angry with somebody taking advantage of you sexually or other professionally is when you install a boundary. And far too many of us have suppressed rage in the process of being holy, but then we stop being whole as a result. And I want to bring contemplation on what is good rage versus stupid rage or not good rage.
Right.
And let me flow all my feelings and emotions. That way, I'm more correct. For example, as a woman, I was told that angry women are no women. They are not attractive. They are not feminine. They are hags. They are nags. They are shrews. They are bitches. That's what's the worldly understanding. And so I suppressed my rage for a while. And with that, I suppressed my emotional intelligence. I suppressed my ability to say no clearly. But now that my anger, as well as my peace, can exist within me, I can discern when what is appropriate.
Oh, right there, guys. Did you hear that? She has a process in place before all this happens, meaning you're very clear on what that looks like, because that's super important, right? You have a process in place to discern what's coming up for you, right?
Discernment is key, and that is what this book is about. It's not just about be angry, burn your brow.
Using examples of different kinds, right? And having the acceptance of that language, not saying rage as the negative cultural connotation that rage is. You have this horrible commercial visual when you hear the word rage, right? Yeah. And it's not that. It's to use for good, the Mandelas of the world, right? Yes. I like that contrast.
The Gandhis of the world.
Yeah, the Gandhis. Yes. Yeah.
And it was a rage against the self-diminishing that was going on, and the other diminishing that was going on, that it is my rage that became this beautiful book, because that rage made me say, let me do something constructive because of it. Let me say no.
It's the constructive rage.
Yeah. Yes,
conscious, constructive
rage.
Yes. Conscious rage. And you talk about that in your book, right? You unpack.
Absolutely. I give clarity. The goddess is not about entitled, foolish, self-destructive, planet-destructive rage. No, it's all about being conscious and using it to greater good.
Let's look at that contrast, because being aware, and I talk about this so much. I mean, that's why I have this platform. It's creating that clarity, that education, and new perspective, new thoughts, new ideas, right? And the contrast is, like many of us, I know I've been there, and there's times where I go unconscious. I'm totally real about all of this. Where I'm bringing this up are those that are so shut down and paralyzed, big words, shut down, paralyzed, spinning out. That's the huge contrast, right? Because there's so much fear and shame that's holding you in that past, whether we talked at the beginning of the hour, whether it could be a cultural norm, past fears, behaviors, and Roar Like a Goddess brings you into the reality, into tools, into stories, mythical beings. What are the names, your three that you were saying a minute ago? The
Durga, Lakshmi, Saraswati. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. So when is your next baby out? September?
So Roar Like a Goddess is available everywhere for pre-order. And the book and the audiobook, where I have given lots of free flow, additional pieces, they're both coming out on September 6th. So it's not too far, and just a few weeks away. It's being birthed. And the book is, it uses few stories, not lots and lots of stories, but it uses few stories. And then I take them apart to bring out the universal choice that we have to remain unconscious. And with it, unconscious powerlessness, unconscious anger, unconscious fear, unconscious self-diminishing, and being okay with it, versus connecting with our inner Shakti, our inner goddess, our inner power, and then bringing a certain awareness, a deliberation, a discernment to it, and then moving forward with those new tools. And it was found that I've been teaching these teachings also, by the way, Sue, for more than a decade on the world platform. And those teachings have now become a book. And I found that people across the culture, across genders, across religions have been attracted by these universal archetypes, because Durga represents that our power is in place. at least we're not showing it off. We're not using it to suppress someone, but we're definitely using it to not become oppressed and to move forward with our life goals with, a certain positivity, a certain courage.
Well, I like you gave it I know, I love it. You gave it a name and a visual, and it's very tactile for me, right? I'm like, oh yeah. I'm bringing that goddess in. I'm coming in on a lion.
When I was a child, I was 9 or 8-year-old, I was being bullied by a kid in school. So my grandfather, who's also my teacher, said, well, think of yourself as Durga and go to school on a lion. So I used to walk to my school. And the next day, I kept thinking that I'm like riding on my lion like a goddess roaring. And you know what happened, Sue? The bully was waiting in the hall for me, and she wouldn't meet my eye. She just kind of sulked and walked away. It's almost like when you know your power, others know it too. You don't have to announce it.
No, that's
you don't have to like hit them on the head.
Yes.
You got it.
You got it. That's owning the inner goddess. Male, female, non-gender binding, none of that. It is you owning it, having a practice in place, right? And learning what that is and getting clear on who you are and how you're showing up. And that, like we were talking at the top of the hour, that presents itself in your 3D world of people.
I think now we lost Sue, unfortunately. Sorry about that. Let's do this. Let's just off to. Yeah, it's okay. Sue, did we get you back? No. Okay. So, folks, sorry about that. We're going to take a quick little break. We'll be right back with more from Sue. All right. That's 2. That's not good for today. Let me see if I can get her back.
There's too much energy here right now.
You know it. Yeah, it looks like she dropped off, so I'll just play a little bit of music. She'll be right back. Hopefully.
So are you enjoying our conversation?
What's that now?
Are you enjoying our conversation?
Yes, most definitely. It's troublesome when it gets interrupted like that.
I know.
Oh, there she goes. She's coming back in. There we go. That's fine. You're muted. So just.
Okay. I don't know what happened there. That was weird. Anyway,
a lot of energy. Got
a lot of energy. It's the goddess, the goddess Durga roaring in like a lion. I cannot wait to see this book. I hope you're going to send me a copy, and I would love for you to sign it for me, because that's
absolutely.
I'm super
because
excited.
You're a roaring goddess, Sue. You must get a copy, and thank you for the work you do.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, my clarity.
I'm sorry.
Saraswati, the goddess, insists on clarity. She insists on going into the subtle matter. It's not black and white. Yeah. It's like going in there and honing your discernment.
Let's bring you back. Sorry. Here we go. Stand by.
Okay.
And you're live, Sue.
Okay. Thank you, guys. We are having so much energy happening here. Okay. Go back to I know. It's all good. It's
I was mentioning that I feel like you're a roaring goddess, and I wanted to thank you for it, because you represent to me the Saraswati archetype, the goddess of wisdom, because her biggest thing is not power, it's not pleasure, but it's knowledge and discernment, and which is gained through subtle re-looking at things to understand what part of this me, what part is the other, what can I let go, what must I embody. And this comes from an insistence on clarity. So you're going to get not only a signed copy, but a copy with a big thank you written on it, because it's a goddess work that you're doing through this, through clarity with Sue.
Yes. It's clarity, it's gratitude. All of those are true values for me, and what I aligned with. Roar like a goddess. Shunya, it's her third baby. We have spent this whole hour and massive energy talking about and educating and shining a light on the goddess within. And the goddess within comes non-binary. It's male or female. It's you owning who you are. It is you getting really clear on what that looks like. And in her next book, Roar Like a Goddess, which is, you can pre-order now, it's tapping into that higher self, figuring that out, right? And having a process and examples and some stories. And I love what you've done about the tactile and the mythicism. I'm trying to have a big word, me and my big words, the goddess and the gender equality, and having a space for everybody to come in and have it just, you know, it's like it's acceptance. It's acceptance for yourself. It's acceptance for the other person, right? Loving me is loving you, is loving us.
I think when we tell stories, the storyteller benefits a lot, because
Totally.
it's like repeating those empowering tales, those clarifying tales, there's evolution of consciousness that occurs for the storyteller and for the story listener. And these ancient tales were said to be activating the goddess within. And so the audio as well as the written version, people have said to me the early reviews, which, by the way, the book is getting great reviews from independent reviewers like Publishers Weekly, Library Journal, and all those distinguished places where new books get reviewed. But even people who read them privately told me that this book is like entering a river and you can't emerge from it not being wet. You can't emerge from it without your goddess beginning to rumble and roar from within and remind you of your own potential, your own choices.
Ooh, right there, your own potential. Remind you, reclaim.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's not about creating something. It's about reclaiming what is already waiting for you, your own freedom, your own power, your own pleasure. Yeah. I've led a life like a regular woman, and now I lead a life with like an awakened goddess. And I can tell you, my life is better now. It's just easier.
Oh, surrendering to higher self and source and that inner goddess. Oh yeah, sisters and brothers, I'm roaring in on my lion. I love it. Okay, we've got about 2 more minutes. Is there anything that you would like to wrap up with our show today?
Well, I just want to thank you for having me on. And I remember coming here for my first book, Ayurveda Lifestyle Wisdom, and you were so supportive of it. And the book went on to become the top 10 books in alternative medicine in America for that year. And my publishers, Sounds True, and a lot of feminist voices from across the globe are excited about the birth of Roar Like a Goddess, because it's not only a new way of telling the old truth, but it's a very empowering way, because those archetypes are connected to source. And when we hear those stories, that same source, which is common to all of us, just begins singing and chanting from within us. So I'm excited. I'm really excited.
I'm excited for you. And I'm excited to get my copy in my hot little hands. And we have been talking about Roar Like a Goddess. And this is the Gandhi energy, you guys. This isn't the shame and the guilt and the control energy. This is the goddess within you, male, female, all of which. And tapping into that higher self, owning it. And you don't owe anybody anything. And this book is going to walk you through some beautiful, beautiful stories, analogies. I love analogies and stories with life, because life is a big analogy. I mean, we learned so much. Shunya, it's been an absolute delight. Of course, I will keep supporting and loving on you, and let me know how I can best be of service to you, your tribe, your people. And big thank you to you, and Sounds True, of course. And Benny, thank you so much. We had a lot of energy happening today. We zoomed in and zoomed out and all the good juicy stuff. Roar like a goddess, you guys.